Wan entered the apartment with Young in a wheelchair. Wan's eyes welled up with tears. She looked around with tearful eyes. After a long time, she stepped in this place again. She felt very peaceful. Wan closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Immediately, a few drops of tears rolled down her cheeks. Today she feels a lot of peace in her chest. Wan is breathing peace after many years. Seeing her this expression, Taehyung smiled and said, Wan looked at Taehyung. It's true, after a few years she came back to this beautiful place where they've spent time together. Those beautiful moments they've spent here. She wiped her tears and smiled. Looking at each other's eyes, both smiled together. Wan took Taehyung to their bedroom. Wan sat Taehyung down on the bed, leaning against the headboard. Leaving the wheelchair aside, she said. Taehyung grabbed Wan's hand as she was about to go. Wan looked back to see Taehyung staring at her. Wan smiled and pulled off Taehyung's hand from her wound. Then she leaned towards him and said, set Taehyung in the wheelchair and took him to the bathroom. Then she took off his Wan very careful stroked Taehyung's body. Taehyung is no less naughty. Sometimes on her hands, sometimes on the neck, cheeks, lips, forehead, and whenever he gets a chance to. Wan was a bit annoyed at first but slowly started to like it too. Now Wan got up and went his back. She was shocked to see his white bag. The reason for her shock is that Taehyung's white bag is covered with blue spots in many places. Her heart trembled. The hospital nurses did everything for Taehyung while he was in coma. They didn't allow anyone, so naturally Wan was unaware of these things, and why the nurses or no one said anything is also a matter of doubt. But now Wan composed herself and said in a normal voice. Taehyung was also a little surprised by her sudden this type of question. He frowned. Wan's heart swelled with joy. She realized how much Taehyung loves her, but the doubt wasn't gone. She tried to speak in a normal voice. Without giving Wan a moment to move, Taehyung reached out with his right hand and turned on the shower. Immediately Wan and Taehyung got wet in the water. Taehyung started laughing. What else would Wan do? She gave Taehyung a good shower and changed his clothes. Taehyung is sitting on the couch and Wan is sitting in front of him with a bowl of soup in her hand. Despite repeated flattery, Wan is unable to feed Taehyung. At one point, she said in a slightly angry voice, An evil idea popped up in his head. He looked at Wan with a smirk. Wan also frowned and looked at him. Wan got Taehyung's mischief thoughts very well, but Taehyung looked at Wan with a baby face and said, Wan was so speechless to hear Taehyung's demand. She said, Taehyung slowly rested his head on Wan's chest. Then he puffed up his face and said, Wan's heart trembled after hearing Taehyung's such heartbreaking words. She felt very sad, realizing his helplessness. Wan hid her pain and said to him in a scolding tone, Wan sighed. There is no other way. She can't win over him now. Leaving the bowl of soup on the nightstand, she left the room and a moment later brought a plate of food for herself. Taehyung took the plate from Wan's hand. Wan put a spoonful of soup in Taehyung's mouth and he sat down with his pouting. As Wang frowned, Taehyung pointed on his lips. Wang smiled and planted a quick on his lips. Taehyung stirred the soup and then he put a spoonful of food in Wang's mouth and immediately planted it. Wang quickly looked at Taehyung with surprised wide eyes and said, Wang sighed and shook her head. She can't talk to Taehyung anyway. Then they feed each other like this. Taehyung was sitting on one side of the bed against a headboard and reading a storybook. At that time, when came to the room finishing all the house chores, she took the book from Taehyung's hand and placed it on the bookshelf. When she gave him medicines, he started excusing himself not to have them. Wang got a little angry and said, She forced not to smile while pretending to be angry. Then Taehyung snorted and took the medicine. Wang laid Taehyung down very carefully and pulled the blanket over him. Turning off the light in the room, she also lied down next to him. Taehyung suddenly looked at Wang and said portentously, Wang set up half light, but Taehyung grabbed her hand and laid her down again. This time he went very close to her. Wang was a little surprised but didn't say anything. Taehyung slowly rested his head on her chest. Wang was more surprised by this. Taehyung closed his eyes tightly and said softly. Wang regained consciousness and realized that Taehyung was suffering. She moved closer to him. Taehyung was happy and hugged Wang with both hands. He rubbed his nose against her chest for a while and then said, Wang laughed at Taehyung's baby talk. She feels peace too. After so many years, getting the person she loved in her chest, the thirst of many years is granted.